Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Generation 9. We made it. Scarlet and Violet came out just a few days ago. Brand new gen, brand new meta for competitive play. And already, only after one weekend, we already have our first bans of this generation. So, of course, I'm going to be discussing those bans in this video. The Pokemon that were deemed too powerful for the game already. Now I should say up front that the two Pokemon that were banned were new Pokemon, so if you do not want to get spoiled on what they were, then I suggest that you probably don't watch this video. But I will only be discussing those two Pokemon in particular, and I will not be talking about any of the other new Gen 9 Pokemon in this video. So with that all out of the way, let's get right into it. So the first quick bans of Generation 9 were none other than Fluttermane and Houndstone. Now, some context, I suppose, some preamble for why these two were banned. So let's hop on Showdown real quick so we can take a look-see. So first of all, Fluttermane, this thing. So this thing, you look at its stats, right? you see 135 attack, 135 speed, and you're like, huh, that is kind of crazy. Ghost Fairy is an insane type. You got two great stab moves just already with Moonblast and Shadow Ball. Very spammable. There's not a lot of Pokemon that can switch into both these types very well. They have very good coverage with each other. Just all around very good stab to have. Very spammable. And of course, on top of that, this thing has Proto-Synthesis, the new ability, which if you're holding the item Booster Energy, it'll boost its highest stat. So what you typically saw, you just saw people like max special attack, max speed, and then since your speed was the highest stat, Boost Energy would boost that, so you'd be fast as hell. You'd outspeed like most stuff pretty much. Like you were faster than other stuff that was at +1 most of the time. You were faster than most Scarfers. And I mean, that was the main thing that this guy did, right? Just like spam it, stab. Did have some coverage like Mystical Fire that you saw sometimes to hit the Steel types. You saw Calm Mind a lot, just to boost its stats even more because they weren't high enough. Some people ran sub Calm Mind with just the dual stab, which was pretty good. Some people also just forwent the booster energy and just ran choice with, like, again, Mystical Fire or some other coverage like Psy, Shock, or Energy Ball, something like that. People even running Memento, although I feel like most of the time you wouldn't want to just like sack this Pokemon since it was really freaking good. But you saw Scarf, you also saw Specs quite a bit. And this thing was definitely kind of an issue, as I'm sure. I mean, I don't think I have to spell it out for you. I think the stats and the type, the moves, all that kind of speak for itself. There really wasn't a whole lot to deal with this thing. Now, of course, as you can also see, like, while these stats down here are very, very stupid, these stats aren't that hot, which, I mean, attack is whatever. That doesn't really matter on this Pokemon, but the HP and defense are very low, and that did make this thing very vulnerable to physical attacks, of course. And, there was stuff like, you go for Sucker Punch and they would kill this thing, but, like, just in general, this thing was super fast. There's not a lot that could outspeed it, and there wasn't a lot that could switch into it either. I mean, there were some bulky Pokemon like, well, I said I was only going to talk about the two new guys that were banned, so I I won't say, but there are some Pokemon that can that were able to switch into this thing, take some hits, but not very many. So yeah, this thing, I mean, it definitely like is the question, like, was this thing too much? Yeah, probably. It was probably very, very oppressive for the meta, and probably doesn't really have much of a reason to stay. However, this is where I want to talk a little bit about this whole banning decision, because I have some thoughts on the matter. Mainly being that me personally, I feel like it's kind of too early on to be banning stuff already, especially like quick banning, like they did with these guys. Game came out like 3 or 4 days ago, and I just feel like, I feel like we should have a little more time to see how the meta develops, and just in general, like more time to mess around with the new mons and like really get a feel for them. Because I mean, like, of course people have learned a lot in the past like 3 days just playing on Showdown, but like at the same time, I feel like the meta is still developing like pretty quickly, I would say. And I just feel like, I don't know, I don't think it's like super necessary to be banning stuff this early on, like, because again, like, should this thing be banned? Yeah, probably. It's probably too much, but like, do we have to be banning stuff like this quick? I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's not super necessary, but I suppose it is what it is. They made their decision. Because I just feel like, in addition to banning these Pokemon, Smogon's also been throwing out the idea of banning terastallizing at some point, and I feel like if that's the case, I feel like it would just make more sense to not ban anything until we decide on terastallizing, essentially, right? Because if it's a case that we're not going to be using terastallizing going forward, we tested and we decided it's too much, we should ban it, then I feel like it would make more sense to wait until we ban that before banning Pokemon. Because like if we're not going to be playing with terastallizing, then shouldn't we be judging Pokemon based off of how good they will be in a non-terastallizing metagame, as opposed to a metagame where terastallizing is allowed, like the one we're currently playing? I just feel like that would make a little more sense personally, because I mean, I guess not as much with this thing, because again, pretty stupid, but I think it'd be better to judge if certain Pokemon are broken or not after we've already settled on, okay, are we gonna allow this mechanic in the game or not? Are we just gonna ban it? So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Because I mean, like, if you think about it, like last gen, like in Sword and Shield, like Dynamax was very stupid. It was very, very obviously dumb and not balanced. But even then, like, we kept Dynamax around for like a month at least after the games came out, and if I remember correctly, we didn't, like, no Pokemon were banned until after Dynamax was banned. I feel like maybe they should have done the same with this generation, but I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I guess we'll see. There are some other Pokemon that they were looking at potentially banning in the future. Will those guys end up getting banned before they potentially suspect terastallizing? I don't know, but I kind of would hope that we settled the issue of terrestrializing before we go forward with any more bans. But that's just me. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say on the issue. Anyways, yeah, Flutter main, kind of stupid. Probably shouldn't have been there. Ban is very understandable. However, that's not the real controversy. The thing that had people a little ruffled up was the ban of this guy Houndstone, because this guy getting banned was kind of stirred up a conversation about how Smogon handles its tiering stuff in general. So basically, right, this guy Ghost Dog. If you don't know what he does already, basically, I mean, you can look at his stats, right? You look at these stats; they're really not that crazy. Pretty mediocre, honestly. So that begs the question: why would this guy be considered so good as to be banned? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's not that the Pokemon is busted, but it's that he gets a busted move called Last Respects. Now, what is Last Respects? Well, it's a brand new ghost move that they introduced this gen. And you can see here how it works is power increases by 50 for every member of your party that is fainted. So, as you can see, it starts off 50 power, which isn't that crazy, but it gets another 50 added on every time one of your Pokemon dies. So, if one of your Pokemon's knocked out, then it goes up to 100 power. And then if you have two Pokemon knocked out, then it goes up to 150, and so on. Until it gets to the point where if Mon with Last Respects is your only Mon left on your team, and all 5 are already knocked out, then this move becomes 300 base power, which is absurd. That's really the issue here. I mean, you saw people running this move on this Pokemon, obviously, because it's broken. You saw Shadow Sneak a bit for the priority, Body Press, mainly just to hit stuff that would take the ghost moves like normal types, dark types, etc. That was mostly it. You also saw Play Rough sometimes, but yeah. And then usually people would run it Banded or Life Orb, something like that. And as you can see here, it gets Sand Rush. So what people would do is they would throw it on a sand team. You would get boost from Sand Rush. Speed would be doubled. It'd be faster than most things. And then it would just basically you would just let some of your Pokemon go down. You would let them get sacked, and then Last Respects would be super crazy strong, and you could just click it and it would just kill most things, basically. So that is why this guy was banned, because there was not very many things that could switch in. However, the thing that was a little controversial, and myself, I feel like this was kind of I feel like this was kind of an odd decision for them to make that I don't entirely agree with, but it's pretty clear, at least I feel so, that this Pokemon, the Pokemon itself is not that broken. Like, Sand Rush is cool, but like, the stats are very whatever. Like, it's not anything that scary. The only thing that made this dude broken was this move, Last Respects. That was it. You get rid of Last Respects, and this Pokemon is not a threat, really. Like, it's just, I don't even think he gets another physical ghost move besides Phantom Force, which is not that good. So, if he didn't have Last Respects, then he wouldn't be an issue. However, they decided to ban the Pokemon rather than the move, and I don't entirely agree with that decision. But if we go over to the Smogon thread they posted, we can see right here them talking about it. Why Houndstone over Last Respects? And basically, they're saying that currently Houndstone is the only Pokemon in the game that gets Last Respects. So basically, they said it's not fair to deem the move broken when only one Pokemon has it. And basically they said they're gonna wait until other Pokemon come out, they get last specs, until they decide. Once that happens, they'll reconsider maybe banning the move instead of the Pokemon as a whole. And I feel like this train of thought is very flawed. For one thing, I feel like they kind of contradict themselves in this post, because like they mentioned like somewhere, I don't remember where exactly they mentioned it, but they basically like say here, like they it says right here, Houndstone looks fairly pedestrian Pokemon that would not even grace the OU viability ranking. So they pretty much admit, like, yeah, this thing's pretty mediocre. It's just the move that's broken. But even then, they go ahead and say that they can't accurately judge if the move's really broken or not. So they're just gonna ban the Pokemon, which, like, I don't think that makes sense. Like, because like I feel like it's pretty obvious that this move is broken. I don't think the Pokemon is the issue. I feel like, I don't think that's a very controversial thing to say. But yeah, I know a lot of people, myself included, definitely don't think banning this Pokemon as a whole was necessary. But they went ahead and banned it anyway, instead of last respects, which is, that is what it is. And so people, like, to add on to the conversation, people were comparing this kind of to Dracovish, where, like, Dracovish was also a Pokemon that, like, it's not that the Pokemon itself was broken, it's that the move it had was broken. It had Fish's Rend, and Fish's Rend is a dumb move. And so, back in Sword and Shield, they decided to ban Dracovish instead of the move. So, like, you could say, like, well, how is this any different? Well, the reason that it's different to me, at least I think so, is, in this example, yes, Dracovish with Fish's Rend is broken, but you could say that the move itself doesn't automatically make any Pokemon broken, because you also had Arctovish that got Fish's Rend, and this thing was not broken at all. This thing was actually pretty mediocre, even with Fish's Rend. So, in that instance, you could say, like, well, it's not really fair to ban Fish's Rend, because it's like on this Pokemon, it's not an issue. It's just an issue on Dracovish. So, like, in that scenario, I feel like it made more sense to ban Dracovish as opposed to the move as a whole. But with this dude, I feel like, first of all, currently, he's, like they said, he's the only mon that has it currently, so they could just ban this move, and then we could still use this guy if we wanted to, and not have to have him be Ubers. But as I mentioned earlier, they're waiting for more Pokemon to get it. Basculegion, when he comes out, he's not available currently, but he will be once Pokemon Home comes out in a few months. And he also gets last respects, and I think it's a thing of, like, I don't think it matters that much what Pokemon has this, because, like, the move itself is just blatantly, like, too much. Like, it's a 300 base power move potentially, and it's just like way too strong. And it's not even like, there's the argument for, like, counterbalance of, like, well, yeah, it's really strong, but you have to have a lot of your Pokemon dead before it's strong, which, I mean, sort of, but also not really, because, like, even if only, like, 2 of your Pokemon are knocked out, this move's already 150 base power, which is, like, that's already super strong. And plus, on top of that, it's a Ghost move, and Ghost attacks are very, very spammable. There's not a lot to switch in. I mean, there's normal types obviously, but most normal types aren't very good. So I mean, there's not a whole lot that can deal with this. I mean, I was using Houndstone a bit on the ladder the other day, and like, yeah, like you could just come in, like you just set up Sandy's faster, and then you just click the button, and it's like there's no counterplay to this move. So why didn't they just ban the move instead of the Pokemon? I don't know, but it is what it is. As they said, you know, once Basket Legion comes out, other mons have last respects. They'll come back, they'll reassess. Maybe they'll decide to ban the move instead, but for now, they just banned Houndstone, so it is what it is. So yeah, kind of went off on a bit of a rant there, but it's just, you know, Smogon doing what it does, making decisions about the tiers that a lot of people will not agree with, but I guess that's just how it is, and we just kind of have to accept it for the time being. I don't know if they're gonna test Flutter Mane back in when Home comes out as well. I mean, Home is gonna bring back a bunch of strong Pokemon, including, you know, Lando, the GOAT. So Home is definitely gonna be a different metagame, but I don't know if they're gonna like go back and like reconsider like, well, could this thing, you know, be not too much for a different metagame? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, this thing still looks kind of crazy, but I definitely think Houndstone is fine as long as he doesn't have this move. So I do hope they reconsider and just end up banning Last Respects as a whole instead of banning this Pokemon in particular, and also banning Basket Legion, because I don't think either of those Pokemon on their own is the issue. I think clearly the move is the issue, but that's just me. Well, it's not just me. A lot of other people also agree, but yeah, that's that. So I think I've said all I wanted to say. So I'm curious what you guys have to say down in the comments. What are your thoughts on the bans? Do you agree these Pokemon had to go? Do you think it's too early for them to be banning stuff? Do you think they should have been banning Last Respects and not Houndstone? Like, I don't know. Very curious. Do you guys agree or do you disagree with all the decisions Smogon has made? I'm very curious to hear. I would love to get a discussion going in the comments. But yeah, that's all from me. I'll catch you guys in the next video.